Okay, so today we're diving into this really interesting idea of gratitude and positivity.
Right.
And we've got this source material that digs pretty deep into
Yeah.
how these concepts can actually like influence your life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just about understanding, what the text says,
Oh, yeah.
but like really trying to pull out those core arguments for
Right.
the power of these things, gratitude and positivity.
Absolutely.
And see if we can find some like truly practical stuff that
Yeah.
you're listening can
Wow.
actually start using in your life.
Love that. Yeah.
It's kind of a fascinating question. Like when you think about it,
Yeah.
could simply like appreciating what you already have actually change how you experience the whole world?
It's a really compelling idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
The notion that what's going on inside of us
Right.
has this like huge power to shape what happens outside of us too.
Mm-hmm.
I think the source we're looking at today really like emphasizes that
Okay.
this connection, that gratitude, it's not just, a nice feeling you have every now and then.
Yeah.
It's something way more powerful than that.
So let's dig into one of the like core ideas from the text.
Okay.
It starts by saying everything is energy. And
Yeah.
that includes like our thoughts and our feelings.
Right.
And then it goes on to say that when we focus on gratitude, we actually like raise our vibrational frequency.
Okay.
Now, I know for some people listening, they might be like, wait,
Right.
hold on, what?
What does that even mean?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So could you kind of unpack that a bit? What's the source saying about this whole
Yeah.
vibrational frequency thing in gratitude?
Yeah, so the way the source frames it is
Mhm.
that by, consistently focusing on gratitude,
Mm-hmm.
on feeling appreciative, you're essentially kind of aligning yourself with this, like, energetic signature of things like abundance and joy and love.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily about, like, a literal frequency,
Right.
in, like, a physics kind of way.
Yeah.
It's more of a metaphorical resonance,
Okay.
Like, when you're tuned into gratitude,
Mm-hmm.
you're more open and receptive to those positive opportunities
Right.
and the synchronicities that are aligned with those feelings.
That makes sense. Like you're more open to those positive experiences.
Exactly.
And the text actually gives a pretty concrete suggestion here.
Okay.
It says, try writing down like 3 things you're grateful for every morning.
Interesting.
So how could something so simple actually like contribute to this
Yeah.
bigger shift in mindset and maybe even impact your whole day?
Well, think about it this way.
Yeah.
You're starting your day by intentionally directing your attention
Right.
towards the positive.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of getting caught up in like worries or
Right.
your to-do list right away,
Right.
you're priming your mind to look for the good, to acknowledge it.
Okay.
And that can create a kind of cascade effect.
Oh, interesting.
You start the day looking for things to appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
You're way more likely to notice those positive moments and interactions throughout the day.
Right.
So you reinforce that initial feeling.
I see. So it builds on itself.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so then the source gets into how this focus on our internal state can actually cause real changes within us.
Okay.
It talks about gratitude, actually like rewiring our brains.
Interesting.
And it points out that when we practice gratitude regularly, it activates the brain's reward system,
Okay.
which, leads to this release of dopamine and serotonin, which
Right.
are those like feel-good chemicals.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what's really interesting is it suggests this can have a lasting effect, almost like training the brain to lean towards positivity.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
You know what I think is really cool here
Yeah.
is how the source is touching on this idea of neuroplasticity,
Okay.
which is, the brain's ability to
Right.
reorganize itself, form new connections throughout our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're consistently doing these gratitude practices,
Right.
you're essentially strengthening those pathways
Yeah.
associated with positive emotions.
Okay.
It's like working out, a
Right.
specific set of mental muscles.
Right.
The more you use them, the stronger they get,
Mm-hmm.
the more readily available those feelings become.
So it's like building a mental habit,
Yeah. It's
almost like learning a new skill.
I like that analogy.
Yeah. And this then ties into the idea of the law of attraction,
Okay.
which the source puts really simply as like attracts, like
Right.
it suggests that when we express gratitude,
Yeah.
we're actually sending out a signal of abundance
Okay.
to the universe.
The universe.
And the universe then responds by giving us more to be grateful for.
Hmm.
So it creates this like self-perpetuating cycle of positivity.
Right.
Now, for some people listening, that might sound a little out there.
I can see that.
Yeah. So how can we understand this principle in a more grounded way?
Well, if we connect it back to,
Yeah.
our mindset, and how we see the world.
Mm-hmm.
When you're genuinely grateful for what you have,
Right.
you tend to focus your attention and your energy
Right.
on those positive aspects.
Right.
And that shift in focus
Mm-hmm.
can influence your actions and decisions,
Okay.
even subconsciously,
Yeah.
in ways that can actually lead to more positive outcomes.
So give me an example.
Sure. So let's say you're really grateful for your health.
Okay.
You might be more inclined to take care of yourself, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Eat well, exercise,
Yeah.
which then leads to, even better well-being.
Right.
So while the universe might sound kind of abstract,
Yeah.
the principle is really about how our internal state shapes our interactions
Mm.
with the world around us.
Okay, that's a good way to put it. So then, for someone who's trying to achieve their goals,
Right.
their dreams,
Yeah.
the source says, start by feeling deeply grateful for what you already have, which seems kind of counterintuitive.
It's
Right. You'd think you'd focus on what you want.
right. Yeah.
But it's saying focus on what you've got.
Yeah. So the idea here is that when you feel genuine appreciation
Okay.
for your current blessings,
Mm-hmm.
you shift your internal state
Okay.
from one of scarcity or lack
Yeah.
to one of contentment and abundance.
Right.
And that feeling of abundance
Mm-hmm.
is believed to be like a more fertile ground
Okay.
for attracting the things you desire.
Interesting.
Because you're focused on what you have to gain,
Right.
not what you're missing.
Okay, so beyond the theory,
Yeah.
the source gets into some practical techniques
Right.
for making gratitude like a regular part of your life.
Yeah.
Things like keeping a gratitude journal,
Mhm.
starting the day with affirmations,
Okay.
practicing gratitude meditation,
Yeah.
expressing gratitude to others, and reflecting before bed.
So these are all pretty simple things you can incorporate.
Exactly. Like they're not huge changes.
Yeah. Easy to weave into your day.
So what's the key here?
I think the key is finding what resonates with you
Okay.
and then practicing it consistently.
Yeah.
Each of these methods
Mm-hmm.
offers a slightly different way
Okay.
to cultivate and strengthen that gratitude muscle.
Yeah.
Journaling gives you a space to actively reflect and record
Okay.
affirmations. You're verbally reinforcing that positive mindset.
Right.
Meditation allows for a deeper internal experience of gratitude
Mm-hmm.
and expressing thanks to others.
Yeah.
That strengthens your connections
Right.
and contributions.
It's all about acknowledging the good.
Exactly.
Now, the source makes this really interesting connection between gratitude and our overall health.
Oh, okay.
It suggests that it can benefit both our minds and bodies,
Interesting.
talking about things like lower stress and anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
better sleep, even a stronger immune system.
Wow.
And it even offers a physiological explanation,
Okay.
saying that gratitude can help reduce the production of cortisol.
Right. Cortisol, the stress hormone. Yeah. This is an area where the anecdotal evidence and emerging research is really interesting.
Yeah,
While the source highlights the potential link
right.
between gratitude and reduced cortisol,
Mm-hmm.
it's important to remember that the connection
Yeah,
between our emotions and our physiology is complex
right.
and still being studied.
Of course.
But it's definitely plausible that by cultivating a more positive state
Yeah.
through gratitude,
Mm-hmm.
we can influence our body's stress response
Okay.
and our well-being in a positive way.
So it's like creating a buffer
Exactly.
against all that stress that you deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't stop there.
No.
The source also talks about how gratitude can actually impact our relationships.
Oh, interesting.
It suggests that it can make our connections stronger.
Okay.
And the way you described it is pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
When we appreciate our partners, our friends, our family, and we express that appreciation,
Yeah.
it deepens those bonds.
Makes sense.
Even just a simple thank you
Right.
for a small gesture can go a long way.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
source even mentions research that shows couples who regularly express gratitude to each other tend to have more satisfaction and feel closer emotionally.
It makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah,
Feeling appreciated is a basic human need.
right.
When you express gratitude,
Yeah.
you're acknowledging that person's value,
Mm-hmm.
the positive impact they have on you.
Right.
And that makes them feel seen and valued,
Yeah.
which strengthens connection and trust
Right.
and intimacy.
So it's a positive feedback loop.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, the source acknowledges that life isn't always easy.
Right.
It says everyone faces challenges,
Of course.
but it presents gratitude as this powerful coping mechanism during those tough times,
Okay.
suggesting that it can help us stay strong
Yeah.
by focusing on what's still good, even when things are hard.
Right.
It even gives us this helpful question to ask ourselves.
What is it?
What lesson can I learn from this experience?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
This is really important.
Yeah.
It's not about pretending difficulties don't exist or
Right.
putting a positive spin on everything.
Yeah.
It's about making a choice
Okay.
to focus on what you can still appreciate,
Mm-hmm.
even in the midst of hardship.
Right.
And that shift in perspective can really help
Yeah.
build resilience and hope.
Yeah, and that question about lessons learned.
Right.
That's really powerful because it encourages us to be proactive and
Yeah.
to grow from those challenges, to find meaning even in those difficult situations. So to make all this practical,
Yeah.
the source gives us this 7-day gratitude experiment challenge
Good goal.
with specific actions for each day.
Okay.
Like writing down 5 things you're grateful for every morning, saying a gratitude affirmation out loud,
Okay.
and doing something kind for someone else.
I like that.
Yeah. And then it encourages you listening.
Right?
To take some time at the end of the week.
Yeah.
Think about what you've experienced. Notice any shifts in your mindset.
That's a great way to put it into practice.
Right, because it takes it from just an idea
Yeah.
to an actual experience.
Right. So what do you think about this challenge? I think this kind of challenge can be really powerful.
Yeah.
By doing these things over a week, you're actively training your brain
Okay.
to notice and appreciate the positive,
Right.
and then extending that outward with acts of kindness.
Yeah.
And the reflection at the end.
Yeah.
That's crucial because it helps you notice those subtle changes
Right.
in your perspective, your mood, your well-being.
So it's about becoming more aware of the impact gratitude can have.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, it seems pretty clear from the source material that gratitude can have a huge impact.
Yeah.
Not just on our mood in the moment,
Right.
but on our whole mindset
Yeah.
and ultimately on our life experiences.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's really powerful, and it affects so much from our
Yes.
well-being to our relationships
Right.
to how we handle those tough times.
Absolutely. The source really highlights
Yeah.
all those potential benefits
Right.
of making gratitude a part of your life.
So for you listening,
Yeah.
we really encourage you to give some of these practices a try. You
Yeah.
don't have to change everything at once.
No, just start small.
Right. Even just taking a few minutes each morning
Right.
to write down a few things you're grateful for
That's a great place to start.
could be a really powerful first step.
It could.
And as you do that, I want you to think about this.
Okay.
What if focusing on and appreciating what you already have could actually open up new possibilities
Interesting.
in your future?
Yeah.
What could change for you
Yeah.
if you made a conscious effort to be more grateful?
It's definitely worth exploring.
It is. That's something to think about.